Every single day, we wake up with two choices: continue on autopilot or intentionally direct our time and energy toward a better version of ourselves. The truth is, transformation doesn't come from a single decision. It comes from what we repeatedly do. Change your habits and you will change your life. Let's begin with something fundamental, the habit of starting your day with clarity. Most people wake up and check their phones before even taking a deep breath. This reactive behavior sets the tone for a scattered mind. Instead, start your day with 10 quiet minutes, no phone, no noise. Just you, your breath, and your thoughts. Ask yourself one simple question: what kind of person do I want to be today? That reflection becomes your compass, helping you navigate the day with intention instead of impulse. Next is the habit of focused learning. Information is abundant, but wisdom is rare. Don't just scroll, absorb, and forget. Set aside 30 minutes every day to read, listen to a podcast, or watch something that challenges your thinking. Focus not on memorizing facts, but on understanding patterns. Transformation requires not just knowledge, but a shift in how you perceive the world. And that only happens when you push your thinking outside your comfort zone. Then there's the habit of conscious connection. Every interaction you have, whether at work, home, or with strangers, is an opportunity to lead with empathy. Practice active listening. Ask one more question. Understand before you respond. When people feel seen and heard, they show up differently. And when you become the person who creates that environment, your relationships and your influence transform profoundly. Another key habit is taking action on your values, not just your goals. Too many people chase achievements that don't align with what truly matters to them. Every evening, take 5 minutes to reflect: did my actions today reflect my values? If not, ask why. This daily habit of reflection will bring a depth to your success that no checklist or milestone ever could. Lastly, adopt the habit of consistency over intensity. Most people burn out because they try to do too much, too fast. But transformation is not about grand gestures. It's about small, repeated efforts. A single workout won't change your health. One moment of gratitude won't change your mindset. But done every day with intention and patience, these actions compound. Consistency builds character, and character is the foundation of a meaningful life. Your habits are your legacy in the making. If you want a different life, don't start with the outcomes. Start with what you do every day when no one is watching, because that's where real transformation begins. 5 keynotes of the speech: begin your day with quiet reflection to set your intention and mental clarity. Invest time daily in focused learning that challenges and expands your thinking. Cultivate empathy through active listening and deeper human connection. Align your daily actions with your core values through intentional reflection. Prioritize consistency over intensity to build habits that lead to lasting transformation. The first habit that can truly begin to transform your life is starting your day with quiet reflection to set your intention and mental clarity. This may sound simple, perhaps even too simple, but simplicity is often the gateway to the most profound changes. The way we begin our day is not just a routine, it's a declaration of what we prioritize, what we value, and how we intend to show up in the world. Most people wake up and immediately reach for their phones. In that first moment, their minds are hijacked by notifications, news alerts, messages, and noise. They haven't even had time to check in with themselves before checking in with the rest of the world. That's where everything starts to go wrong, not because technology is bad, but because reactivity replaces intentionality. Quiet reflection in the morning is about creating space. Space before the day begins to happen to you. When you intentionally give yourself even just 10 minutes in the morning to sit in stillness, no screens, no distractions, just your breath and your thoughts, you reclaim control over your time and your mindset. In that silence, you're able to observe your mental state. Are you anxious? Are you already overwhelmed? Are you feeling hopeful? Simply noticing where you are is the first step to shifting it. But quiet reflection is not just a pause, it's a reset. It's an opportunity to check in with your values before the day pulls you in 1,000 directions. It's a time to ask yourself powerful questions that most people never stop to ask. Who do I want to be today? How do I want to respond to stress? What kind of energy do I want to bring into my relationships? These are not grand philosophical questions. They're practical. And asking them consistently reprograms the mind to lead with intention rather than reaction. Think of your mind as a compass. If you don't recalibrate it each morning, it starts to drift, influenced by the external world. Your boss's email, the social media feed, the traffic jam, these things pull your attention away from what truly matters. But when you begin the day with a clear internal compass, you stay grounded. You become the kind of person who responds instead of reacts, who chooses presence over distraction, and who leads with purpose rather than pressure. This habit of morning reflection also helps reduce decision fatigue. Throughout the day, we make hundreds of decisions, many of them unconscious. But when you start your day with clarity, you make some of the most important decisions before the day begins. You decide what matters. You decide what doesn't deserve your energy. You decide how to show up even when things go wrong. That internal clarity acts like a filter, helping you say yes to the right things and no to the things that drain you. Another powerful effect of morning reflection is its impact on emotional regulation. When we create space in the morning, we are also creating a buffer between us and the stress of the day. That buffer is not just mental, it's physiological. Reflection calms the nervous system. It helps regulate cortisol. It allows the body and brain to sync up, so we're not charging into the day in fight or flight mode. Instead, we enter it with a sense of calm control, which dramatically improves our ability to think clearly, solve problems, and relate to others with empathy. And this doesn't require a massive overhaul of your schedule. It could be as simple as waking up 15 minutes earlier, sitting in a chair, and asking yourself 3 questions. What am I grateful for? What is my intention for today? How will I take care of my energy? Some people write these down. Others speak them out loud. The method isn't important. The mindset is. What matters is that you create a moment of deliberate pause in a world that is constantly trying to rush you. We often talk about wanting to transform our lives, but we overlook the very first moment of our day. That's the moment where transformation quietly begins. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, but it's powerful. Because when you start your day grounded in clarity, every decision, every action, every interaction begins to reflect that clarity. And over time, that's how life begins to change from the inside out. The habit of investing time daily in focused learning that challenges and expands your thinking is one of the most underestimated tools for personal transformation. In a world where information is readily available and distractions are endless, the ability to sit down and engage deeply with meaningful content is becoming rare. But this rarity is what makes it powerful. Focused learning is not about scrolling through articles or watching endless videos with no real retention. It's about choosing to learn with intention, to engage with ideas that stretch your understanding, and to apply what you learn to your daily life. We live in an age where people are surrounded by noise but starving for wisdom. Every day, we are bombarded with data, headlines, opinions, trends, and more. But learning is not about volume, it's about depth. When you commit to learning something meaningful each day, even for just 30 minutes, you create a habit that trains your mind to think, not just react. You begin to develop mental discipline. And mental discipline is a foundational trait for anyone who wants to grow. True learning is uncomfortable. It challenges your current worldview. It forces you to confront your own biases, gaps in knowledge, and sometimes even your own ego. That discomfort is where growth lives. If everything you read or listen to simply confirms what you already believe, then you're not learning, you're just reinforcing. Focused learning means seeking out perspectives that challenge you. It means choosing to read books that aren't easy, listening to thinkers who make you reflect rather than agree, and diving into topics that require effort to understand. When you build a habit of this kind of learning, you also build adaptability. The world is changing rapidly, industry shifts, skills become outdated. The only way to stay relevant mentally, emotionally, and professionally is to remain a student, and not just a passive consumer of facts, but an active explorer of ideas. Focused learning keeps your mind sharp, it keeps your imagination alive, and it helps you make better decisions because you are no longer relying on surface-level thinking. This habit also trains patience and focus, 2 things that are increasingly rare in a fast-paced, attention-fractured society. Sitting with a dense chapter of a book or listening to a complex podcast without checking your phone builds more than knowledge. It builds focus muscle. It tells your brain this matters. Stay with it. And that mental endurance spills over into other parts of your life. You become more focused at work. You become a better listener in conversations. You become more grounded when life throws distractions your way. Focused learning also opens the door to creativity. The mind makes connections between seemingly unrelated ideas when it has a diverse range of inputs. When you read about psychology, philosophy, science, art, or business, even if they're not directly related to your work, you begin to see patterns. You start applying concepts from one field into another. That's where innovation happens. That's where your thinking becomes original. And originality is a competitive edge in any environment. What's powerful is that this habit doesn't require a massive time investment. Most people think they don't have time to learn, but in reality, they don't make time. Just 30 minutes a day is enough to read a few pages, reflect on a new idea, or take notes on something insightful. Over a year, those 30-minute sessions compound. You'll have absorbed the equivalent of several books, dozens of lectures, and hundreds of ideas. And more importantly, you'll have built the identity of a learner, someone who doesn't settle for what they know but seeks to grow. Learning also helps build confidence. Not arrogance, but real confidence, the kind that comes from knowing you've equipped your mind with tools to face challenges. When you understand how systems work, when you have vocabulary to express complex ideas, when you can draw from a deep well of knowledge in conversations or decisions, you stand taller. You don't need to fake certainty because you've earned clarity. That clarity comes from learning consistently, not from knowing everything, but from being curious and capable of learning anything. In the end, the habit of focused learning is about more than consuming information. It's about shaping your thinking, refining your perspective, and preparing your mind to lead, adapt, and create. It's about choosing growth every day in a world that often rewards stagnation. And when you do it with intention and consistency, you begin to change, not just what you know, but who you are becoming. The habit of cultivating empathy through active listening and deeper human connection is one of the most transformative things you can do in your personal, professional life. Sounds simple. Be more empathetic, listen better, but in practice, it requires effort, attention, and humility. We live in a time when people are more connected digitally than ever before, yet emotional disconnection is widespread. True connection doesn't come from presence alone. It comes from presence with intention. It comes from a willingness to understand before speaking, to listen not to reply, but to truly hear. Active listening is not just about hearing words. It's about paying attention to tone, emotion, silence, and the unspoken things that people are often trying to communicate. Most people listen with the intent to respond. While the other person is talking, they're already forming their reply. This creates a shallow loop of communication where neither party feels fully understood. Active listening breaks this loop. It demands that you pause your internal monologue and shift your focus outward. When you listen in this way, the other person feels safe, valued, and respected. That feeling is rare and it's powerful. Empathy begins with a decision to be curious. Instead of assuming, you ask. Instead of jumping to conclusions, you stay open. Empathy is not about fixing someone's problem or offering advice right away. It's about stepping into their emotional space and saying, I'm here. I want to understand. That shift in mindset changes the dynamic of any relationship, whether it's with a colleague, a friend, a partner, or even a stranger. People begin to trust you, not because you always have the answers, but because you make them feel seen. When you practice empathy consistently, it changes how you view conflict. Instead of framing disagreements as battles to win, you begin to see them as conversations to understand. You ask questions like, what does this person need right now? What are they really feeling behind their words? What am I missing about their perspective? These questions unlock deeper understanding, and deeper understanding leads to better collaboration, less resentment, and more meaningful outcomes. Another powerful aspect of empathy is that it reduces judgment. When we listen actively and seek to connect with others on an emotional level, we realize that everyone carries invisible struggles. Everyone has a story. Everyone has wounds that shape their behavior. That awareness softens our responses. It makes us slower to criticize, quicker to offer grace. And this shift doesn't make us weaker. It makes us wiser. Because when we understand the why behind people's actions, we are more equipped to lead, influence, and support them. Building this habit also transforms how we show up in high-pressure environments. Whether it's in leadership, teamwork, or negotiation, the ability to understand others is a superpower. Empathetic leaders build trust. Empathetic teammates foster psychological safety. Empathetic communicators diffuse tension. These are not soft skills, they are human skills. And in a world driven by automation, AI, and technology, it is these human skills that will continue to set people apart. Empathy also helps us connect more deeply with ourselves. When you train your mind to be curious about others' emotions, you also become more aware of your own. You begin to recognize your triggers, your patterns, and your emotional reactions. That self-awareness leads to emotional regulation. You become less reactive and more reflective. You make decisions from a place of calm understanding rather than defensive emotion. That emotional intelligence becomes a core part of your identity. One of the most overlooked aspects of empathy is its role in listening to those we disagree with. In today's world where polarization is common and conversations often become debates, the ability to hold space for different perspectives is invaluable. It doesn't mean you have to agree, but it does mean you can listen without needing to win. That act alone can disarm hostility and build bridges where walls once stood. And that's something very few people are willing to practice. But those who do earn respect, influence, and trust. It's also worth noting that empathy isn't about being nice all the time. It's about being real, present, and grounded in respect. Sometimes empathy looks like asking a hard question with care. Sometimes it looks like giving honest feedback with kindness. It's not about avoiding discomfort. It's about showing up fully in it with compassion. That kind of empathy creates space for transformation in others and in ourselves. Cultivating empathy and practicing active listening every day is not about grand moments. It's about micro moments. Looking someone in the eye instead of looking at your phone. Letting someone finish their story before interrupting. Asking one more question before offering advice. These moments build connection, and connection builds trust. And trust is the foundation for any relationship worth keeping. The habit of aligning your daily actions with your core values through intentional reflection is one of the most powerful yet underrated disciplines for personal transformation. Most people set goals. They aim to earn more, lose weight, build relationships, or reach milestones. But goals are destinations. Values are the compass. When your daily actions are in sync with your core values, you live with integrity. You live with clarity. And over time, that creates not only external success, but inner fulfillment. The problem arises when people chase achievements without examining whether those achievements reflect what truly matters to them. That disconnect breeds emptiness, frustration, and burnout, even in moments that are supposed to feel like success. To align your actions with your values, you first have to know what those values are. That requires reflection, deep, honest, and ongoing reflection. What do you stand for? What kind of person do you want to be remembered as? What matters more to you, recognition or contribution, independence or community, excellence or authenticity? These are not surface-level questions, and they're not questions you answer once and never revisit. Life evolves, you evolve, and values, while consistent at their core, often take deeper form as you experience more of the world. Reflection is the habit that helps you stay in conversation with yourself. It's the process of checking your alignment like a pilot, constantly adjusting course to stay on track. Intentional reflection doesn't have to be long or complicated. Just 5 to 10 minutes at the end of the day can provide immense clarity. Ask yourself, were my choices today a reflection of what I believe in? Did I speak and act in ways that honored my principles? Where did I compromise? Why did I compromise? These questions aren't meant to shame or discourage. They're meant to illuminate. When you examine your behavior through the lens of your values, you begin to see where you're strong and where you need growth. That awareness leads to responsibility. And responsibility is the gateway to real change. Aligning your actions with your values also gives you a strong internal filter. In a world full of noise, expectations, and conflicting opinions, it's easy to feel lost. Everyone has an opinion about what success looks like, how you should spend your time, or what goals are worth pursuing. But when your actions flow from your values, you don't need to look outward for direction. You have a personal standard that guides you. That standard gives you the courage to say no to things that look good but don't feel right. It helps you walk away from situations, roles, or relationships that are misaligned, not out of arrogance, but out of respect for yourself and what you stand for. Another critical part of this habit is accountability. When you align your daily choices with your values, you begin to hold yourself to a higher level of integrity. You don't just say what you believe, you live it. That consistency builds self-respect. It builds trust with others. And over time, it builds a reputation. People begin to see you as someone who is clear, consistent, and principled, not because you're perfect, but because you're grounded. That kind of reputation isn't built in a week. It's built in the small decisions you make every day when no one's watching. It's also important to recognize that values sometimes require sacrifice. Choosing integrity might mean turning down an opportunity. Choosing compassion might mean slowing down when everyone else is speeding up. Choosing excellence might mean working longer or harder when no one expects it. These moments are uncomfortable, but they're the ones that define you. Reflection helps you see those moments not as burdens, but as choices. And when you understand the why behind your sacrifice, the how becomes easier to carry. This habit also builds emotional resilience. When life becomes uncertain, and it always does, values provide stability. You may not control the outcome, but you can control your response. You can control whether your actions align with what matters most to you. That alignment provides strength during adversity. It reminds you of who you are when circumstances try to make you forget. That's not just inspiring, it's practical. It helps you make decisions faster, recover from setbacks quicker, and stay grounded in what's real. Reflection is the mirror you hold up to your life, not to judge yourself, but to understand yourself. It allows you to recognize patterns, adjust your behavior, and live more intentionally. And when reflection becomes a habit, alignment becomes a lifestyle. You're no longer just reacting to life. You're shaping it one value-driven decision at a time. Over weeks and months, this creates a foundation that is unshakable, not because life gets easier, but because you become clearer, stronger, and more aligned with who you're meant to be. The habit of prioritizing consistency over intensity to build habits that lead to lasting transformation is one of the most misunderstood yet powerful principles for personal growth. People often believe that change requires massive effort, grand gestures, or dramatic breakthroughs. But in reality, the most sustainable change comes from what you do repeatedly, not what you do occasionally. It's the small, seemingly insignificant actions that compound over time and reshape who you are. Intensity might create a spark, but consistency is what sustains the flame. Many people start with enthusiasm. They go all in on a new goal, a new routine, or a new mindset, pouring in all their energy for a short burst. But when the excitement fades or results don't come as quickly as expected, they burn out or give up. That's the flaw in relying on intensity. It's emotionally satisfying in the beginning, but it's not built for the long run. Consistency, on the other hand, is quiet. It's not always exciting. It doesn't get as much attention. But it's dependable, and that dependability is what creates real momentum. Consistency builds trust with yourself. Every time you follow through on a habit, no matter how small, you're proving to yourself that you can be counted on. That self-trust compounds. It shifts your identity. You no longer see yourself as someone who tries things and quits. You begin to see yourself as someone who commits and follows through. And when your identity starts to change, your behavior follows naturally. Transformation doesn't just come from doing, it comes from becoming, and becoming happens through repeated action. Another advantage of consistency is that it removes decision fatigue. When you make a habit part of your daily rhythm, you no longer need to negotiate with yourself. You don't ask, should I do this today? You just do it. That mental clarity frees up energy for more important choices. Think of it like brushing your teeth. You don't need motivation to do it. You just do it because it's part of who you are. That's the level you want your positive habits to reach. Not negotiable, not optional, just part of your day. There's also something powerful about showing up, even when you don't feel like it. Those are the moments that strengthen your discipline. Anyone can perform when they're motivated. But consistency is forged in the days when you feel tired, distracted, or unmotivated, and you show up anyway. It's not about being perfect, it's about being present. Even doing 50% of the habit is better than skipping it altogether. Those small efforts add up, and they reinforce the idea that progress matters more than perfection. People often overestimate what they can do in a week and underestimate what they can do in a year. That's the nature of compounding. One workout won't make you fit, just like one skip workout won't make you unhealthy. But the pattern of your behavior, the rhythm you create over weeks and months, becomes your reality. When you focus on doing the small things daily, you start to build systems that take over when motivation is low. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And those systems are built through consistent action. Consistency also creates clarity. When you stick to a habit long enough, you start to see what works and what doesn't. You refine your approach. You learn more about yourself. You develop resilience. But you can't reach that level of insight if you keep starting over. Most people never give themselves the chance to experience the long-term benefits of their efforts because they're constantly restarting. But if you stay with something long enough, if you choose consistency over novelty, you'll uncover breakthroughs that were never accessible from the surface. This principle applies to every area of life, whether it's health, relationships, learning, or career. The people who make the biggest impact are not the ones who rush the process. They are the ones who respect the process. They do the work when no one's watching. They show up even when it's boring. They stay in the game when others quit. And that steady presence builds credibility, competence, and character. In a world addicted to quick fixes, consistency is a form of rebellion. It's choosing depth over speed, mastery over popularity, and growth over hype. The truth is, the people you admire, the ones who seem disciplined, successful, or wise, didn't get there by accident. They simply made small choices every day that aligned with who they wanted to become. And they kept making those choices day after day, whether or not they felt like it. That's not just a strategy, it's a mindset. It's the belief that progress is earned, not gifted. And that belief, practiced consistently, changes everything. Transformation is not a product of one grand moment. It's the result of daily, deliberate habits practiced with intention. When you begin your day with clarity, invest in focused learning, connect with empathy, act in alignment with your values, and commit to consistency over intensity, you don't just improve your schedule, you reshape your identity. These habits, simple in form but profound in impact, create a foundation for lasting change. They don't demand perfection, they require presence. And when practiced over time, they not only elevate how you live, but who you become. Because the real transformation begins not in what you do once, but in what you choose to do every single day.